Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Veterans Minimum Thursday Pod NFL Preview. Your boy Lamb here, ones and twos. Make sure you're following at Veterans Minimum on all social media outlets. And my guy, once again, sort of developing a Cal Ripken Jr. like streak, Mr. Allen.
What's up?
Every week on the pod, my guy.
Grind.
You know what I'm going to ask you, as we do on every episode of the pod. Thoughts on the Falcons?
This was the first week where I got so when does mock draft season start tweet. So
Shit.
So that's when you know things
God
are.
damn, it's like that?
That's when you know. I'm seeing a lot of Chase Young tweets, so apparently I got to start watching Chase Young. So yeah, I think that's where the things currently stand with the Falcons.
Man, our buddy Taryn does some stuff with PFF. He puts together some of the stats for the games of the week, and he already came out with a take. I saw him tweet out about how Chase Young is going to be better than Nick Bosa, who right now we were talking about. I showed Alan one of the tickets that I made. One of the bets I made was Devin Bush to win Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. And you're like, yo, I kind of like that. And then you're like, oh, no, never mind. It's Nick Bosa.
I saw a tweet last year. They said Nick's going to be better than Joey Bosa. So I don't know, sometimes you got to trust the draft analysts. Other times they're kind of out of their mind.
Yeah, man. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But those Ohio State defensive ends, all of them seem to pan out except for Vernon Goldston, right?
Oh.
Producer Mike in the background. Hey, man, look, you guys came off a big win. Actually called that one. That was one of my favorite bets. Cowboys. Man, what do you make about – I'm a big believer in you are who – I don't think your record could be deceiving.
Yeah. To quote Denny Green, they are who we thought they were.
Yeah, exactly. And – you know, Dallas starts off 3-0, but they had wins over Eli Manning and the Giants, Josh Rosen and the Dolphins, and
Case
Keenum and the Redskins. And then you play Teddy Bridgewater and the Saints, who that looks like a much. I mean, at the time I thought it would be an upset if the Saints won, but now it's like the Saints have won 4 straight games.
It's hard winning primetime game in the Superdome.
It's a different animal, right?
It's one of the most intimidating places to play.
Yeah, and then also when you look at
Green Bay I thought still Green Bay was this point because they got pretty much I know they scored at the end. Cooper went off, but they got both.
It was like 31-3 at one point.
Aaron Jones was just running all on them.
Yeah. And then like this might be a hot take. I kind of feel like that way about New England too. I think New England's
they're gonna be tested the next 2 months. But people are like, when they're gonna play something. You can see a schedule of Chiefs, Texans. Who am I blank on? Eagles,
Baltimore,
Cowboys. If we're just bashing the Cowboys, the Cowboys, look, they're gonna still pose a challenge. The Cowboys will be there in December. I don't know if they're gonna make the playoffs, but they'll be there.
Yeah, but I
got too much talent.
I would say Cleveland would be someone to consider as a team, but maybe not anymore. All right, the biggest talking point from the weekend, and I would say the whole year so far, has been the officials. Man, what do you make about the officiating so far?
It's almost as bad as 2012. Remember the replacement refs, how bad they were? And it got to the point where the infamous Seattle-Green Bay game.
One guy touchdown, one guy incomplete, and then the rest came back.
That was just a sign, okay, things need to be changed ASAP. Because now we have results being affected. But this weekend, I just first start with the Seahawks and Browns. The Browns are one of the most undisciplined teams in the league. I think we all know that. But just some of the penalties. I'll never forget, I think Chubb got a screen, and he was going to the other side of the field, and like Landry landed a perfect block, and they called him for a block in the back. Meanwhile, his shoulder went right into the defensive back. I want to say maybe it was Tedrick Thompson, but that was bizarre. And then at the Jets-Cowboys game, it seemed like there was 6 straight plays where a flag was thrown, especially late in the game. You remember that?
Yeah, that was a rough watch, man. And then ultimately everyone saw the Monday Night Football game with the Lions and the Packers. You know, that's always magnified on a much bigger scale when you have like the NFC Championship game, right? Mm-hmm. It's the biggest game of the year outside of the Super Bowl. Everyone's watching it. It's the standalone factor that I talk about with from a betting perspective. It's the one game that's on TV and everyone's watching. What happens? You get the pass interference call, which I read somewhere that it's less than 10% of the PI calls are being overturned. Like no one knows because in the end of the day, it's a subjective call, right? What do you think is pass interference? What do I think is pass interference? And man, there was a play, the Giants weren't going to win that game anyway. I'm not going to get crazy, but there was a game, the game last Thursday. Dude, Golden Tate got held off the line, got held down the field, and then got PI'd, and they just didn't call anything.
That's why I wonder, like, if Trey Flowers Monday night was like, if I was in New England, would they have called this? Yeah, you get stuff like that. So, yeah, I just wish it was more consistent because people say, oh, it's the playoffs, let them play. It's like, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like MMA. People are like, if it's a title fight to beat the champ, you really have to beat the champ. I'm like, no, it should be judged as it's like a regular 3-round fight. We can't look at circumstances. Rules are rules. So
Right.
It needs to be consistency across the board. I don't care. I don't care if it's a Sunday night game in New England or a Sunday afternoon game in Miami, where it's not really professional football at this point. But it's just it needs to be consistency across the board. That's the most frustrating thing. And then you just look at some of the games. Like I thought the most egregious was Jets Cowboys, but even that Browns Seahawks game, like you clearly saw, that was a fun game, but I saw like 3 or 4 times. It's like, wow, the Browns are really getting jobbed here. And I'll gotta mention too, Atlanta Arizona, the game nobody watched. There was I think it was a fumble. Isaiah Oliver forced a fumble on Damari Bird, like the 1 yard line, and clearly the ball went out before any body part touched the ground. And they were like, no, it's I don't know, some like continuous act. So that's like another one. It's just bizarre. And then there was a fair catch, or I think what's the penalty I'm thinking about right now?
Fair catch interference.
Yeah, when my man Sherrod Neesman, great guy, interviewed him multiple times, he got penalized for fair catch interference. Meanwhile, he's like 5 yards away from the return, and there was no review. It turns to the contact Farrell Cooper made with some D-back on Arizona. So it's just things like that. Like Atlanta, as bad as they are, they probably should beat Arizona, but it's just there's no consistency. That's why I'm kind of over just getting stressed out about refereeing, because just like it's been a constant battle for years, and it's like there's nothing. Like we talked about the challenge rule, that hasn't really translated much success, and now look at this.
You know, I think the big issue is that, one, the officials aren't full-time. Like, I don't know if a lot of people know that, but these are all part-time refs. Like, some of them are, you know, I want to say Ed Hockley was like a lawyer. Or I know there's a referee that's a lawyer, right? Yeah, right?
Well, who was it? Gene Sterator.
Sterator.
What does he do?
There was another guy who was in law enforcement. The other dude was a teacher. It's like these are part-time refs. And sure, you have your officiating crew, but dude, it's just anytime a wide receiver gets like anytime a corner makes a great play on like 3rd and 8, it's like, and he's celebrating like the pass breakup. I'm like, oh, here comes a flag. We're to the point now I'm shocked if a flag doesn't come in.
Right. It makes the slightest bit of contact.
Yeah, dude, it's just gotten too much, man. It's gotten too much. And again, it's a complete overreaction where the NFL really wants to correct what happened in the NFC title game with the Saints and the Rams, and that's really what it comes down to. It was that decision there. We had the overreaction to, again, it's very important you need to factor in the primetime game and Cowboys-Packers. Was it a catch with Des Bryant? That changed everything. I still don't know what a catch is, man.
I'm done trying to figure it out. Like, it's just like, okay, who knows? You know what the crazy stat is, though? The past 3 years, the average amount of penalties per game was 15.9. This year, it's 18.3.
A lot of games are going into the 4 o'clock window, like 4:15, 4:20. And one of the cool things about football used to be where, you know, the one issue I have with the MLB is you never know when a game's going to end, right? You can't tell, say you got to go to dinner with a +1 and the game starts at 7:10. You're like, all right, this game's going to be over at 10 o'clock. No, it's not. You have no idea, right? Where that's the coolest appeal with soccer. And I know I might be a little biased because I'm a soccer fan, but you know, a game starts at 11:30. It's going to end by 1:30.
Best.
It's awesome.
Unless some crazy injury happens or hooliganism.
And even then, it's
It'd be like 8 minutes of stoppage time, which we're good.
Right. It's still in that window where a baseball game could end in 3 hours or 6. Like it's outrageous. So with the NFL, the games are taking longer. Dude, I don't know if this is a hot take, and I want to make a marking here on this one because I think it's a very important conversation. And I've been on this side maybe because I'm a big fantasy football player and I'm a big gambler and I love sports betting. It's well documented. Man, I think the biggest appeal with the NFL and why I think it's still the juggernaut that it is the fantasy football aspect and the sports betting aspect. Dude, one of my customers today offered me tickets to the Cardinals-Giants game. And one, it's a disaster getting out of MetLife Stadium. But two, I was like, man, I really like staying home on Sundays. I have the Giants on the TV. I have the one monitor has Red Zone. The other monitor has, you know, a marquee game, one of the games that we highlight at the end of the show every week.
Like Chiefs, Texans.
Yeah. And then I just love staying home. And I'd be lying to you if I said that it wasn't because of the daily fantasy stuff and DraftKings FanDuel and my yearly team that I'm in. You know, everyone's in the league.
Right.
And even the betting perspective. Dude, do you think that fantasy football and sports betting has a big influence over the NFL and why people are so into it?
Oh, absolutely. Has to be. Especially DFS over the years. We got to include that, especially just given the contest with DraftKings and FanDuel. So, there's no denying that, especially because you just see constantly people on their phone checking their app. It could be a Monday night game. Let me see what's going on. Like, I'll put up the Yahoo app. So, yeah, I think it's been like that for at least the past, 3-4 years, because we've seen the rise. And we just see now advertisements in New York City, just big billboards of just whether it's FanDuel, DraftKings, or just fantasy. It's everywhere. You know, you can't really ignore it.
Man, the NFL is in trouble, I think. I really think that a lot of people are getting soured off the game.